In the black community, a lot, I had the term with your name come up, culture vulture. How do you feel about that term? Do you think that's a bad assessment of you, a fair assessment? What you think of that?
I think when I hear that, I think of like words like honky.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like being a white person in a in a black art form, you're gonna get the racial slurs and so forth. You know, whether it's culture vulture or honky or white boy
Right.
or however you want to do it, I sort of equate it as sort of the same thing. So when I hear it, it's like, all right, whatever. At the end of the day, I have a catalog of 15 years of footage with people's life stories that no one else has, put in the work to get. Like when Kevin Samuels died, and he's making front page news, and he's being honored at the BET Awards and everything else like that. He only has one interview where he told his life story, and that was on Vlad TV. When he talked about how he grew up, his relationship with his mother, his father, his first marriage, how things started to develop for him, and ultimately where he was at that point of his life, which was maybe about a year before he passed. Nobody else has that. John Witherspoon has never told his life story anywhere else but Vlad TV. Mo3, who got killed, never got a chance to tell a story anywhere but Vlad TV. FBG Duck, who got killed. As well as people like, important pieces of footage, like with Mike Tyson or Tiffany Haddish or Shaka Khan and so forth. Like the catalog, I think, speaks for itself. I don't think anyone in hip hop has a catalog as extensive as ours.
Right.
I just don't think that anyone's put out as much work consistently year after year as we have. So if you want to call me a culture vulture, that's fine. But if you look at what I've contributed to the culture, I don't think anyone can really argue what I've contributed. I think it's very significant.
Right, yeah, it's funny. 'Cause like I said, I did your platform. I started because I was familiar with you before I did your platform, but I wasn't into the this media genre. So I'm just looking at, when I see certain names, I listen. But I did a platform. I was like, man, Bone, I'm surprised you did that. ABC and 1, 2, 3. And then when I started, because I'm a type of dude, you can't tell me anything. You can't tell me who to dance with, who to sing with. I gotta meet the person in data or how you want to look at that. And when I look at your track record, I was like, shit, this man came out the mud. You was carrying record crates and following people on tour and winning mixtapes awards. So to me, I think it's not a fair level. I'm not here to say if you should get it or shouldn't get it. I just want to hear your perspective on it. But when I did my research on it, I was like, damn, I was surprised that you came from the mud. You know what I'm saying? So so I can appreciate that. That struggle right there. And I also wanted to ask you, what's some of the what's one of the interviews you did that you might have said that it could have been the boy from New Orleans, and I'm thinking about it, that you was just shocked that, damn, I didn't expect those numbers to be from there.
I mean, a lot of times you're shocked. A lot of times you don't know what's about to happen. We just did an interview with Eddie Curry, the basketball player, and he talked about how he had this sort of, how would you call it? He had like a medical condition with his heart, being a big man. He's like a 7-footer.
I remember that too.
And he had a condition, and the team he was playing for,
Chicago.
I think it was the Bulls, were concerned that he was going to essentially die on the court, right? Because there was other players with a similar condition who ended up, I guess, having heart attacks and dying right there on the court. So they were concerned about that, especially someone who's getting paid tens of millions of dollars. So they wanted him to take this DNA test, and they said that whether he passed or failed, they would guarantee him $500,000 a year, no, $400,000 a year for 20 years. No, for 50 years.
Even if he failed?
Even if he failed, he's guaranteed $400,000 a year for 50 years, which is like $20 million, guaranteed. And he turned them down because when he met with his agent, they basically said that if you take this test, this will set a precedence for a lot of black players, because I guess this is something that's a little bit more prevalent in the black community, and this is going to affect the NBA as a whole. So he decided not to do it and basically give away this guaranteed $20 million. And ultimately he made more than that. But at the time, you don't know what's going to happen, right? You're just you're talking about being set for life. And that interview just went viral and it started to go everywhere. So a lot of times you just don't know. I mean, you think, anyone who I sit down with, I think has an interesting story, but will the public find it as interesting as I am? You never know. We go viral probably about once a month. And you never, sometimes you kind of know, but a lot of times you're like, oh, this is what y'all running with? Okay, cool, I'll take that.
Damn. What's the name? Have you ever interviewed somebody and during the course of the interview, you talking to them, you like, damn, just their disposition and how their point of view of life, you looking at you say, damn, this dude, man, I think he gonna have a short lifespan, just how he think and how he look, and then it happens.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my interviews with FBG Duck and Mo3, I tell them that they should move out of their cities in the interview. Especially with Duck, I told him twice in 2 different interviews. I said, you should move out. You've gotten shot, your brother's gotten killed, gotten stabbed, you've got an active beef with guys who live in the same city as you, and bodies are dropping on both sides. You should just get the fuck out of Chicago, like Chief Keef did. Chief Keef you never see Chief Keef in Chicago. Literally, I've never seen a video of him in Chicago since he blew up. And he's been living this great lifestyle in Calabasas or wherever the hell he's at these days, with his friends, living in his mansions, living a carefree life, not worrying about people shooting at him and so forth. So you see that and you try to, and I'm, a lot of times these guys are younger than me and I'm like, yo, like I've seen this
movie.
I've seen this pattern
Right.
multiple times. Mo3, same thing, like, yo, you need to move out of Dallas. People are shooting at you. You got beef with various people and it's gonna be, you really should just get out. And it's like, nah, no one's chasing me around. I'm good. I know how to move. I know what to do, what not to do. And I got people around me who I trust. I don't want to move somewhere, blah, blah. And then you hear these tragic stories, how someone did chase down Mo3 and they did kill him in his own city. And then he goes and blows up music-wise right afterwards. Him and Boosie have a huge song, Mop With It, which is like a huge song. And I think like when Obama, every year Obama does this list of his favorite songs of the year. And one of those songs is the Mo3 song. And it's like, shit, you weren't getting this love when you were alive. But now that you're dead, everyone's suddenly, oh, he was a genius, he was this. And it's like, you don't want it to work out like that. You want the person to be able to live a long life and appreciate the fruits of their labor. You don't want them to get killed and suddenly everyone realizes how great they are. But at the end of the day, who the fuck am I? I'm just the person they're sitting down with for a couple hours. They don't usually know me beforehand. They know of me. And they're going to do, these are grown men, they're going to do what they're going to do. And all I could do was put in my 2 cents. And hopefully, maybe if I can't influence them, I get a lot of DMs about, hey, watching you give these young guys, your, opinions and, suggestions has made me change my life. I hear that a lot. And to me, that's almost like okay, that's my consolation prize. Like maybe I couldn't help him, but I may have helped a couple thousand other people that I've never met.
Yeah, look at that as a grand prize, man. And I ask you that only because of the work I do, before I even started mentoring, even when I was in the street, I was always from a leadership position, but now I do a lot of mentoring. And so when I mentor youngins or even some big grown men, and you talking to them, you like, shorty, it ain't gonna end good. And you're seeing it. But they can't see it because they in the movie, but you outside like a prize fight. You know what I'm saying? And you see it, and it's like, I know it's a fucked up feeling, you know what I'm saying? So I was wondering, have you ever experienced that and seen that,
Most people don't have a good person in the corner, right? Like most people will make bad decisions on their own. When you look at most successful men, there's usually a woman there. Whether you know about that woman or not, there's usually a woman there that they're running their ideas by, who's giving them a good perspective. When you're just out there by yourself, and you're surrounded by a bunch of yes men or yes women, and they're all agreeing with all the dumb shit you're saying and enabling you to keep going, and they're too scared that they might get fired if they disagree with you, you're ultimately going to make bad decisions in the long term. And a lot of times when these kids, when they get a lot of money and fame so quickly early on, they feel like they're the smartest person in the room. You know, you look at, like, for example, at like a Kyrie Irving. Like, you could tell Kyrie feels like he's the smartest person in the room. Like, everyone else is not on the level that he's at. Where everyone else realizes that, hey, you're a great player, you don't always make the best decisions. And over time, you see him making these bad decisions over time because he's feeling like, man, I'm rich, I got this money, I don't have to, you know, I got people around me. You know, I'm not going to take the vaccine and not play. I'm going to think the earth is flat and everyone else is stupid. And you know what I mean? Like you see this type of thing, but Kyrie's not unique in how he's doing it. Like there's a lot of Kyries out there, of people who are just successful, who are naturally talented in something, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily intelligent. They're just really skilled in that one particular thing, right? They still don't have the wisdom and the understanding to make these other decisions, but they go in and they're making all the decisions. In the process, a lot of times they end up stumbling.
Right. And the concept you came with Vlad TV with, you're actually not on camera.
Right.
Was that purposely done because you seen you had a long-term vision on not being on the camera, or were you a little camera gun shy at that time you started the process?
I mean, combination of a few things. Originally, it's because I couldn't afford a cameraman, so I'm holding the camera.
Okay.
If you look at my early interviews, if you do a sort, like on YouTube and sort it by the oldest video and see some of the old like Plies or Mano interviews or whatever, I'm holding the camera. I'm asking the questions from behind the camera. I can't afford a cameraman. And as time went on and I could afford a cameraman, I started realizing the flexibility of being behind the camera. Whereas, like, for example, when the pandemic hit, we never slowed down. We were still able to pump out interviews in real time, high quality interviews, while everyone else had to just stop because everyone else was on camera. And allowed us to kind of keep going, allows me to do interviews in cities where I'm not at. Like, for example, our interview, I'm in LA, you're in New York. It looks like we're in the same room when the interview came out, but we're not.
Right.
And that allowed the amount of content that we put out to be way higher than someone that just has to be in the same room with somebody. And over time, that's what's allowed us to grow a lot faster by me not being in front of the camera all the time. And, on top of that, it's like, I never really wanted to be like a major celebrity where everywhere I went, I'm being mobbed and asking for photos, and I have security with me 24/7, and I can't go grocery shopping and so forth. Like, to me, there's a value of having a certain level of anonymity. Not that I'm completely anonymous. Like, people know who I am. People know my voice more so than my face, but I enjoy the privacy of it. I think that when you look at most celebrities, if you were to ask them, hey, you could keep all the money and not be famous, would you do it? I think most would probably say yes. But because it's like NBA YoungBoy could go to the mall and go shopping and, buy a few pieces of clothes and go home and have lunch at the food court and go home and chill. Like, he would shut down the mall if he showed up there, right? And that becomes a hassle after a while. Yes, it's nice to have the adoration and the fans, but like, it also, you're also a bit of a prisoner of it.
Okay. Yeah, and cause I kept on saying, I give you props on a lot of things you do. I said, I know he ain't foresight. That was that keen to say, if I stay behind this camera. When I look at it now, I say, man, this man can make up money while he on a cruise. He could just, you can be everywhere around the world. I say, I know he wasn't that sharp to see it that long term down the road like that. So it was a combination.
It's a combination, man. And I've been in front of the camera. It's like I've always been behind the camera. I mean, there's interviews like with Lil Bibby that he was like, I'm only going to do it if you're on camera. So it's like, all right, do the interview. But
who that, Lil Baby?
Lil Bibby.
Lil Bibby.
Bibby, yeah, from Chicago. So yeah, man, a lot of times You have the idea, and
Right.
over time you see the advantages of it.
Right.
I'm not going to say I knew the whole thing from the beginning,
right.
but I was also I was never sort of the guy always drawn to the camera, drawn to the spotlight. That wasn't really me.
Okay.
I was more drawn to the business and more drawn to the effect of what I do,
Right,
as
behind the
opposed to
scenes guy.
just being about me.
Right, right. And I heard you recently make a comment that you and Boosie, the Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen, the internet or podcast. Why do you think that chemistry works so well?
I don't know. It just does, right?
Yeah.
About 15 million people tune in every time.
Every time.
Every time. So it just is what it is. I think me and Boosie have built up a rapport, and you got to understand that me and Boosie go back before Vlad TV. Like there's interviews with me, Boosie, and Webby from like 2004. So you're talking about, man, we coming up on 20 years of knowing each other, and me rocking with them and them rocking with us, and so forth. And it's just. And I think a lot of it is that me and Boosie are very different. Boosie comes from this background and has this point of view. I come from a totally different background and have a totally different point of view. Almost like when you see like a Shannon Sharp and a Skip Bayless, like what they do is special because they're so different, and they disagree on certain things. They're not just going to sit there and agree with what the other person's doing. So that combination of Boosie running wild and then me bringing up the opposite of that and having him react to it and so forth, but then both of us still having the respect for each other. I think that's what people are drawn to. And the consistency of it all. Right? Like, it's like Boosie, Boosie was on the Breakfast Club a couple of years ago. You haven't seen him on since. Like, you see Boosie on, I think this year we're planning on having 6 Boosie appearances this year. We're 3 deep into that so far. He's been on 3 times. We plan on having him 3 more times.
All right, damn. And this next question is not even probably fair to you because it's not really your position. But I'm just gonna take a stab just to get your opinion. I'm gonna come over the top, curious guy that can think out the box. So you've been around the black culture forever, since you've been basically a young kid with the music and all that. From the outside looking and not being a black man, and I know you hear a lot about we want to move our culture, we want to come together and be strong as a people. What's some things from the outside, not being a black man, you can look in and say, man, if I can whisper this to them, if they do 1 or 2 things, it can help their movement as a people in the culture, what they trying to do, what would that be?
I don't think there's anything really, what I would say is unique to the black community. More so, I see things on an economic level.
Okay.
So, I've been in relationships with women who grew up in the projects, whose mom had been on disability their whole lives, or whose mothers have been addicted to drugs and so forth. And you see the type of, like I mentioned earlier in the interview, of the thinking of the longer term thinking.
That's a great example.
Of approaching things with a long term mindset. To me, what I would say, one of the things that stood out to me the most is there's like an aversion to, like, for example, investing in stocks. A lot of times when you look at lower income communities, black, white, Spanish, otherwise, they look at stock investing as gambling, and they don't touch it. But when you look at all the richest people in the world, most of their wealth comes from stocks, right? Whether it's holdings in their own companies or they have these big portfolios that are worth billions of dollars, like the Warren Buffetts or the Bill Gates of the world, or the Elon Musks, or the, Jeff Bezos. Like all the people you mentioned, all the rich people they're all stock billionaires.
Right.
They don't make their money from a service that they do, or a job that they go to, or a salary that they make. It's not from touring, or whatever else. So if I were to say one thing to help the lower income communities, I think that you have to learn how to use your money to make money, and also to try to get out of a mindset of trying to flip and I went through, and I used to be very poor myself, and I remember going through this where like you build up a certain bag, a certain pile of money, and then and then you try to do something risky with it and try to flip it, and most times you end up with zero. Right? Whether it's, when I was younger, try to buy a kilo of cocaine and getting ripped off the first time out, being out $17,000.
Right.
Because your homie just ripped you off and there's nothing you can do about it because you can't call the police, you can't sue them. It's a brick of cocaine, right? But that's the mentality of like, yo, I got some money, I'm going to do something super risky with it because I'm going to try to double or triple it. And by doing that, I'm either going to lose it all, or I'm going to go to prison, or I'm going to get killed. Because you're doing risky shit. As opposed to, hey, I'm going to, I got $10,000, I'm going to put it in the S&P 500, and next year I'm going to have $11,000. But that's not sexy. That's not, you can't go on Instagram and brag about your 10% stock increase. You know what I mean? There's no cars to show up, there's no jewelries to show up, there's no big house to show. It's just a couple numbers on a computer or your phone. So that to me would be the biggest thing. Like learn how to make your money, use your money to make more money, because otherwise you're always going to be on a hamster wheel of trying to catch up to your bills, as opposed to getting to a point where like, yo, I have this money that's been growing every year, and even though something bad has happened to me, like I lost my job or the economy shifted or the inflation's going crazy, I have this to back me up, and I'm not going to make a bunch of bad decisions because I'm panicking right now and I'm thinking about what's going to happen next week.
Okay, that's a good piece. Appreciate that. What is Vlad TV or your whole conglomerate? What is worth right there?
What's that?
With the whole Vlad
How
TV?
much is it worth?
What is worth?
I don't know.
What you take a guess at it, man. Take a guess. You ask a lot of money because we're gonna ask you, man. What you think, man?
I have no idea, man. It's all worthless until somebody makes you an offer, right?
Right.
It's until someone comes in. I think I've said, like, I mean, academics asked me how much it would take to sell Vlad TV. And I said if someone came in with $100 million offer, I'd probably sell it.
You'll take 100?
Take 100.
Dang, I thought you would help for that. What's the name?
100. I mean, but that's July 2022.
Okay.
You got to understand, like, look, when I was first launched Vlad TV, after about a year, there was this magazine called Honey Magazine. I don't know if anyone remembers it. It was around for a little while, but the guys who put it together, who owned it, this was, when was this? This was like around 2009, I think. They had all this like venture capital money and all these people that whatever, and they wanted to buy Vlad TV, and they gave me an offer. We essentially negotiated an offer of $850,000, and they gave me, I think, like a $30,000 down payment to essentially secure the deal, and then we started on the paperwork and so forth. As it so happens, they ran into a bunch of financial problems, and they weren't able to come up with the rest of the money. So the deal fell through. And at the time, $850,000 was a huge amount of money. It was more money than I'd ever seen before. Like, it was like everything. With $850,000, I was gonna buy a house, I was gonna buy a car, I was gonna, I was gonna have it made. And in retrospect, that would have been the worst decision of my entire life, to have sold the company for so little. $850,000 is an amount of money that has zero effect on my life in 2020. Like, if you put an extra $850,000 in my account, I wouldn't do anything with it. I wouldn't touch it. It'd be like, okay, I'll just put it with,
with the rest.
With the rest, right?
Okay, put it with the rest.
It's not like, okay, now I could do something I haven't done before. No, that's just put it with the rest. But at the time, it was everything. And by luck, I'm not even going to say that I was smart enough to turn down the offer. It was just by luck they weren't able to come up with the rest of the money. That over the next, 12 years, we built up where that was just insignificant. But you got to understand, like, you know, at every level, that there's an amount that will move you.
Right.
In 2009, $850,000 would move, you know, would move me. In 2022, $100 million would move me.
Right.
In 2025, it might be $1 billion.
Right.
You know, or the market could change and $10 million might move. Like, or you know, you never really know. But I look at it as, well, if I had a certain amount of money where I for sure could completely maintain my lifestyle and don't have to worry about anything else for the rest of my life, with the number of years that I could estimate that I have left, then it becomes a conversation.
Right.
And you see these guys these days, you know, I mean, Irv Gotti sold his catalog, I think for $100 million. You know, Timberland and Swizz Beatz, a lot of these guys have chipped, you know, when someone comes in with a big check, and they're sitting on this asset, a lot of times you'll take that $50, $100 million
It depends
check.
on where you at in your life at that time. Right.
Where hey, look, you know, yeah, you know, it's probably worth more or whatever, but in my lifetime, what I get every year won't add up to that. So it makes it, there's a better business decision to take that.
Out the park, niggas know me. Curtbone, little homie. All days, yeah. Been a road, yeah.
Thank you for watching Changing Jewels on Curtbone TV. If you like the jewels that we're dropping, subscribe, hit the notification, and share with some friends. And I'll see you on the next episode of Changing Jewels, Curtbone TV.